So today we're going to discuss 5 rock solid reasons why men are made to lead a marriage. Now, before we begin, this is not just going to be a strictly faith-based discussion, although we will look at it through that lens as well, but one made primarily from a place of reason and logic so that you can become the great leader in your marriage that your wife wants you to be. The first reason why men are made to lead is that women don't think rationally. Women operate on an emotional-based operating system, while men lean towards reason and logic. Now, this is not some kind of design flaw with women. It's rather a natural difference that serves to complement each other. Women can and do think logically, but when there's a discord between something that she is feeling and reason and logic, she will go with her feelings every single time. And this emotional pull can sway even the most critical of decisions. So the problem with women being a leader in the home is that reason and logic are too easily overridden by her emotions, even when that logic stares at her in the face. Let's talk about why this happens. Well, it's all primarily based and rooted in biology. Women don't consciously choose to be overly emotional or irrational. It happens due to her biological design, due to that constant flux of hormonal shifts that is happening in the course of her monthly cycle. Then later in life comes the perimenopause and the menopause. Essentially, a woman's hormones are all over the place during almost her entire life. So a woman's biology is going to override how much a woman can logic. And these hormonal shifts even impact like what kind of man she is attracted to during the course of the month. Where during the time of ovulation, she starts becoming much more attracted to like super masculine features and qualities, things like that deep voice and that dominant behavior. And then after ovulation, that all flips, and then she starts wanting more of that softer, sweeter, romantic gentleman side to you. And as a side note, gentlemen, this is an important reason why you should be tracking your woman's menstrual cycle. I'm just saying you can make this all work in your favor. So these constant hormonal changes, they affect women's decisions. Women are going to use feelings to make decisions and use logic to retroactively justify their decision. This is a process called rationalization. And in those moments, she doesn't care what kind of logic is put in front of her face. She's going to go with what her emotions are telling her, and that is what she's going to believe. And I can speak from personal experience here where like I know that I'm being emotional and irrational, and I'll try to like self-soothe and say, Monica, this doesn't make any sense. You just can't override what you're feeling. And so even if we try to calm ourselves down, like there's this internal debate of telling ourselves, well, I shouldn't behave this way, but still feeling upset over something that logically, you shouldn't even be upset over. So if a woman can't even logic herself out of her own emotions, what makes you think that you're going to be able to do so? So these hormonal ebbs and flows are going to affect a woman's feelings and shift her priorities. And this just doesn't provide for a rational basis for which women can be dependent upon to make the critical decisions in her marriage. The second reason why men must lead is that women can't lead from a place of strength. They can only lead from a place of fear. One of women's core needs is to feel safe. And this need to feel safe is going to shape everything she does and how she operates in the world. And this is because women live in a constant state of fear and anxiety. We have a hyper awareness of potential threats and to the safety of our relationship. And I just don't think men really understand like how fearful women are on a daily. We are just worried about things all the time. And this isn't just some quirk, it's actually rooted in history and biology. We know as women that our safety is dependent upon men. And the only reason that women have any kind of freedom and safety whatsoever is because good men have decided to give us that gift. Can we just be real with that fact that us as women would have absolutely no rights if men didn't allow it? So this is why I think it's comical when women are like, I don't need no man. I'm like, okay, well, you wouldn't be saying that if there weren't good men out there protecting you against the bad ones. So we're now at a time, at least here in the US, where women do enjoy a decent level of safety and protection. But that hyper awareness that served us so well biologically in the past to actual real dangers and threats, that sensitivity is still imprinted into our biological wiring. And that causes us to be overly cautious and worried about things we don't need to be. This heightened vigilance means that fear is always a part of our decision making. Everything we do, every decision we make, comes with some component of fear being in that decision. This constant state of fear is why women suffer so greatly from anxiety. Think about what anxiety is. Anxiety essentially is just fear that something bad in the future is going to happen. And a woman's imagination of what can happen is always like the worst case scenario. I mean, if you as a man, you were coming home an hour late from work, where does her mind go? Her mind's always going to go to the fact that you're having an affair with Susie Q at the office. She doesn't think, oh, well, maybe you just ran late. Maybe the traffic was bad. Or maybe you just forgot to call. Maybe you got held up in a meeting. Or maybe you needed to stop and get gas. No, she goes straight to you having an affair, because that is her worst case scenario. And she thinks about the worst case scenario so that at least she can be mentally prepared for it. At least she wouldn't be blindsided. So this hyper-awareness that served a very real function in the past fuels today's anxiety in women. And it's not something that's rare. 18% of women are on some kind of anxiety medicine. So just think about what the actual numbers are. If those are just the women who actually got so bad that she went out and got treatment. So this fear-driven mindset directly is going to impact a woman's decision-making abilities. Women are not going to make decisions based upon what is best. They're going to make decisions based upon what is safest. So decisions are going to be made from a safety point of view, sometimes to the point where she will be irrational despite having very good evidence brought to her attention and put right in front of her face. So imagine a woman being in charge of a family's financial planning for retirement, and she sees a sudden dip in the stock market, and she sees that drop, and this internal panic just overrides everything that she knows about the stock market, where historical data has indicated that if you just ride those dips out, that in the long run, you're probably going to be just fine. And then pull all the investments out, which she feels is a safer move rather than losing all the money. So a woman's fear means that she's going to prioritize short-term emotional relief over long-term logic. And that's going to lead to some very poor choices. Placing the burden of difficult decision-making on a woman who is wired to prioritize safety is an unfair ask, and it sets the family up to be reactive rather than making proactive choices. The third reason that men are made to lead the home is that women are allergic to accountability. There is a quote in Spider-Man where Peter Parker is told by his uncle that with great power comes great responsibility. It is the highest level of responsibility and accountability. And sometimes people mix those two words up. So let me give you a little bit of an example that I think might help. And we're going to use a work environment for this scenario. So in a work environment, there's usually the boss and there's the employees. Now, employees have responsibilities. They are tasked with completing certain duties, like finishing reports or meeting deadlines or handling projects. Their responsibility lies in completing the tasks that are assigned to them. However, the boss is the one who is accountable for the result from their efforts. So the boss is the one who's going to answer for the results from his team. He'll have to explain the successes or failures to maybe some of his higher ups or some stakeholders. But the boss is going to be the one who bears the consequence if his team's work doesn't meet the expectations. So both you and your wife have responsibilities in the marriage, but who is accountable is always going to fall to who is in charge, the boss, the leader in the home. But here's where the problem lies. Women are allergic to accountability. And if they don't want to be held accountable, and they don't, then they cannot be put in that position of power. And because it is the man who is always going to be expected to save the day when shit hits the fan, to come to his wife's rescue, he must be given that right to those final choices, those tough decisions in the marriage, because he is the one who's going to be held accountable for it. A woman's never going to have to be held accountable. Let me just give you an example, and to make this a bit more clearer. Let's say that your wife crashes the car, and there's a $2,000 deductible, but she doesn't have enough money to pay it. And so what happens? So she's going to come to you and say, sorry, babe, I don't have the $2,000. Do you have it? Can you cover me? Does the husband just say, sorry, babe, this is on you. You crashed the car. You're just going to have to figure it out. If he says that, there's going to be problems. So despite the fact that she was responsible for the crash, she still is going to have her husband be held accountable for making everything whole. And this is what all women expect. This is one of the greatest benefits to being married as a woman is we know that when life gets tough, we have a good man that's going to have our back no matter what. Like he's going to help us figure it out. But if the tables were turned, there's no universe in the world where a woman is expected to go rescue a man. He would just be expected to figure it out. So if the husband in the marriage is going to be the one who is going to have to figure every situation out, no matter who was responsible, if he has the ultimate accountability, which he does, then it is only fair that he should be the one who makes the decision for which he is going to be held accountable. The fourth reason why men must lead is that it's biblically mandated. In a nation where 62% of the U.S. identifies as Christian, it makes sense that people would try to live their life in a way that is congruent with their beliefs. And Christians turn to the Bible to get guidance on how to do that. So what does the Bible have to say about male leadership? Well, it provides a pretty clear stance that the husband's role is as the leader of the household. And it's also very clear of what that should look like. So in Ephesians 5:22-24, here it says, "Wives, submit yourself to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husband in everything." And women tend to really not like those last two words, the in everything. They like to pick and choose. So this passage clearly establishes the husband as the head of the household, and then lays out how that leadership should mirror Christ's leadership of the church, one in which it's a service-oriented, selfless type of leadership. Well, what happens then when a woman doesn't like the decisions her husband's making? Women are fine with their husbands leading until they're not. And they'll often invoke Acts 5:29, which states we must obey God rather than human beings, to justify when she doesn't want to submit to her husband as the leader. So if a husband comes to a woman and asks her to do something sinful, of course she is called to not do that thing. And isn't this a convenient out for her not to support or back her husband's decisions, as if she's the unilateral arbiter of sin? So how can a man truly be the head of the household if she's the one who's dictating what is sinful and what is not? This seems like a bit of a paradox, doesn't it? Like, for instance, some women view masturbation and viewing online adult entertainment as cheating. Other Christian women don't have any problem with it, and she may actually find it hot and exciting to mutually engage in that activity. The problem here is that there is no universal translation or agreement about what each scripture means. One person can read it and translate it one way, and then another person can read it and translate it a whole different way. And then you have the whole problem with which translation are you reading? Because how something is translated, you change one word and it changes the entire meaning of the entire thing. So allowing your wife to be the decider of what is sinful for herself is fine. But when she also tries to tell you what is sinful for you, then that also puts you back in a de facto female-led marriage. The bottom line is that if a woman doesn't like your decision, she's free to express that to you. But ultimately, your decision, your call, needs to be your call, because you are not required to answer to your wife. You are required only to answer to God. The fifth reason why men must lead in their marriage is that a woman can't respect a man she can overpower. Power dynamics are always going to be at play in a relationship, and they will shape attraction and respect. Women don't want to be in a relationship with a weak, feminine man. They aren't attracted to that. They are attracted to strong, capable, competent men who are leaders. And when leadership falters, it affects the entire dynamic of the relationship. When you allow your woman to take over leadership in the home because you can't handle her emotions, she's not going to be able to respect you. Why? Well, this is because leadership signals strength and protection. She has to know that you are capable of protecting her, and if you can't protect yourself from her, how are you going to protect her and the family against other people? Like, you can't even handle a 5-foot-something female. So this isn't just about physical strength. This is about mental fortitude. A woman can only feel safe with a relationship with a strong man that's not only physically strong, but mentally strong as well. If a woman can mentally overpower her man, she's just going to lose all respect for him. And as I said before, if she can't respect him, she can't love him. She can't love him, she won't want to fuck him. So your frame must be strong enough, and you must be the leader in the home, or else your marriage is just not going to survive. Or if it does survive, it's going to end up being sexless, because she's going to view you as a little boy. You're incompetent and you're incapable, and that's just not attractive. So yes, leadership requires persistence, even when it's tough. And yes, she's going to fight you for this role. But no matter what, you cannot allow it to happen. It's very much like when you train a horse. Like, there's a lot of stubbornness on that front side. But when that horse is broken, when there is an acceptance on her side of her role and the hierarchy and structure of the marriage, then it gets relatively easy. It's much easier to prevent it on the front side and just have the discussion like Michael and I did. Even if you are now in a marriage and you realize that your leadership has sucked and that you're in a female-led marriage now, will it be as easy? No, it will not. So be prepared for this battle that will happen. But just like when you train a horse, one of you is going to win. But too many men give up before that horse is broken. And then they're stuck in a marriage with chaos. And that's not good for anyone. Remember, there's always a leader, and it has to be you. Are you a married man who is stuck in a sexless marriage? Well, if so, you certainly are not alone. Listen, seducing a woman once is hard enough, but maintaining that desire for years, if not decades, is a whole different game. It's a game of knowledge and skill, and nobody teaches men how to do this. Not your parents, not society, and certainly not the woman that you're married to. I'm Monica Almaguer. I've been teaching thousands of men the specific tips, tools, and techniques to create a hot, steamy marriage on my podcast, Modern Marriage with Monica. But now I've taken all that information, those thousands of hours, and really have just distilled everything that you need to move the needle in your relationship with your wife into one simple course. And before you ask, no, your wife doesn't need to know or be on board. It requires nothing from her. In my course, How to Create and Maintain Long-Term Sexual Attraction, I give you all the information, all the tools, not just for right now, but for years. Let me just go over a couple of the things that you're gonna learn in my course. The first thing is the 6 pillars of long-term attraction. We're gonna go over the proper expectations. We're gonna go over how women really work, polarity, the proper masculine and feminine dynamic. I've put together everything you need to create this environment in which your marriage and your sex life is not only just going to survive, but thrive. If this is something that you would like more information on, go ahead and hit that button below.